Everybody, it is your boy Hoos. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be going into One Piece live action. Season 1 came out a few years ago and Season 2 just dropped a few months ago. We're going to just dive into that, break down a few things, as well as go over my opinions and how I felt about what worked, what didn't. Get a discussion going down below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and begin breaking down Season 1 and 2 of One Piece. Now, we'll keep One Piece Season 1 a little abbreviated, just to touch base on how I felt on that. Season 1 itself covered the East Blue arc where Luffy is gathering his crew one by one and having them join his crew. They all go through their situation and it's cool to see how they have adapted such a unique and bombastic anime onto the live screen. They have their work cut out trying to keep faithful to it, just because the things that happen in One Piece, they take a lot of work to try to make it look real, or at least believable, because it's just so outlandish. That's one of the quirks about One Piece that makes it enjoyable, in my opinion. It's just so different. You have things happening that you could not even fathom to be anywhere near realistic, but they decided to try to make it into a live action. So this was a challenge to do. Things like the Fishman or Devil Fruit powers are very challenging to do. The way they use Buggy's powers, or how Luffy has to keep being his rubbery self, stretching all over the place. They did phenomenal with that. I was impressed with how faithful they also stayed. So I want to say Oda had a lot of impact when it came to that, because Netflix or most places, when they adapt animes, it seems like they just take a movie, any sort of cookie cutter movie, whatever the heck it is, and then throw anime inspired skin on top of it, and then say it's that movie or that anime in live action. And it is typically abominable, and a lot of times devoid of anything from the source material. It's refreshing to see live action adaptation follow faithfully, or at least to a massive degree, to its source material. That's what this live action remake does. They do add in different things that you don't see in the anime to try to make sure it's fresh for people who keep up with that. For example, they follow Garp a lot more in the East Blue arc throughout the first season. Garp is barely involved in that portion of the anime. So it's cool to have another perspective, a fresh one, to keep the arc interesting. When we get down to it, there was a few things cut out that kind of disappointed me. One of the fishermen, the octopus guy, I'm trying to remember his name. Hachi, I believe it was. He was entertaining in the anime. I was hoping he would be back, but it doesn't look like they're going to try to explore that route. So he was cut, and a few other things that were missing. It's interesting. The choices they chose weren't critical to the story itself down the line, at least made it different. Season 1 was a very, very entertaining season, to say the least. They managed to get through the East Blue arc. They also dealt with Arlong Park, which is the very intense arc that deals with Nami's hometown, how a fishman basically took it over and made them basically work for him, turned them into essentially his slaves. As fishmen have a tough history with humans, or creatures on the land, they have this radical Arlong who decided, I'm going to turn the tide, flip it, and be his own pirate, and taking humans basically into slavery. You had to deal with Nami, who was one of the people that was indebted to him, basically a slave, trying to collect berries, which is the monetary currency in this world, to deal with her debt to him. Luffy had to help her get out of under from Arlong. Luffy then in turn decides, I don't like what he stands for, and takes him out. It was a great moving piece, so it was cool to see them adapt that. At points, not as strongly as the anime, but still pretty good. Season 1 really made me feel very hopeful for Season 2. Now, when it comes to Season 2, I personally think it was a step up from Season 1. Rarely does that happen, in my opinion, where the second season or the following seasons supersede the initial season. This one was better to me. I thought they got more extravagant. The set pieces was cooler. The one thing they did kind of step back on was the combat. The combat was kind of in some of the most of the season. There wasn't really much, and it wasn't really like that cool or that good when it did happen compared to the first season. In the second season, they start off with Luffy heading to the Grand Line with his crew. They gotta go up Reverse Mountain to get past the Red Line and get to the Grand Line. As that happens, that was the opening episode. It was intense. They come down, they finally make it through and meet Baloo, the whale that keeps bumping his head on the Red Line. Now, where they made a change was doing the flashback or the history of a future character named Brook. He was the musician. Now, he plays a major part. Try not to go too much into future spoilers. It was cool to see him at that point because it's actually a nice change. Like, you don't get this little portion of backstory until significantly later in One Piece. To have it this early fits. It makes sense. So it seems like Oda gets the chance to like go back and redo his anime with information that he thought of later down the line. Putting that in that moment was cool. They eventually meet Vivi, who was undercover. She was also the princess of Alabasta, who is undercover in Baroque Works. She's a major player and also a temporary member of the Straw Hat Pirates. They meet her. They eventually get to meet Mr. 8. He is also undercover with Vivi. They deal with a bunch of Baroque work nonsense, which all cool. Loved it. Very close to what they do in the source material. Now they deal with a lot of Baroque Works players at their next stops. One of the major ones was when they get to Little Garden, where they run into giants. These giants are people to remember. They do play a role down the line. Jory and Broggy are very, very huge in comparison to our players. And it's a major moment in Usopp's time with the Straw Hat Pirates, because this kind of gives him that motivation to be a better and braver pirate. The way they brought this to life was impressive. It was impressive. This is one of those outlandish things that you don't know if they can pull it off. They did. It was cool. You have little hidden trinkets in there like the Nika statue, which again, another thing they'll play in later, that they threw in there. They went and incorporated our Mr. 5 and Mrs. Valentine into Little Garden, which they're not involved for the most part. You do then have Mr. 3 as well. This whole sequence where they dealt with 3, they've been captured, they've managed to take out 5 and Valentine, all of it, well done. I loved it. It was good execution in that, and they made it more interesting than the anime. The anime was pretty straightforward. They got caught, Luffy knocked out Mr. 5, moving on, go to the next island. I do appreciate how they handled it in this show. It was cool. Now they head over to Drum Island. Now this is more of a place they go out of necessity due to Nami falling ill and it being an island that has a ton of doctors. So hopefully it's a place that can help her recover better. They make emergency travels to that location. Unbeknownst to them, it ends up being a very pivotal location as they do eventually meet a future crewmate. On this island, they end up dealing with Wapol. He is a tyrannical leader. He ends up leaving for a little while and taking all of the doctors as well with him, which is very unfortunate for our main characters as they need one. They are turning to the only one that has survived the situation of Wapol collecting doctors, Dr. Correa. she's, you know, bat crazy and an asshole at the same time. She is the only one they can go to try to help Nami, as they are desperate. She also has a little reindeer with her named Tony Chopper. We go through his backstory, which is moving in an anime. In this live action, they did a hell of a job. They made Dr. Hero look spectacular. One thing I want to say is kudos to that actor. He did a hell of a job doing that role, because that was one of the most moving and entertaining pieces of this show as well. They eventually get Nami feeling better. Chopper ends up joining the crew. They took out Wapol, who I feel like they could have done better with his conflict, a little more interesting. They did end up giving us a little bit of information on how he got his powers per se. That was a little cool insight they added. Overall, the battle against him was, you know, it felt a little weak. That being said, now the whole season itself I thought was enjoyable. I love the little changes they put in with adding Smoker and Tashiga's confrontation with 11 and Miss Thursday. That portion with Wapol getting his devil fruit from All Sunday, aka Nico Robin. A bunch of other things they've added in. This was a great adaptation. I've enjoyed it significantly. I hope they can continue this, but we'll see. The way they're adapting it, it's phenomenal. I'm afraid about the pace that they're going. These actors are likely going to be like 80 by the time they even think of getting to Wano, which, let's be honest, they're not getting there. There's no way they can. If they pull that off, that's spectacular. I don't know how they will. The season itself, I thought was impressive. I enjoyed it a lot. A few little quirks here and there. It was a very good show. Let me correct that. Very great show. That just has a few small quirks that can easily be fixed, and not really ones that will make it a bad show. I'm excited for season 3. They'll continue on with the other half of this arc, which is the Alabasta arc. That is an intense combat situation. Like, there's constant battles in that. They're gonna be in a desert. I heard they're shooting this in some kind of desert location, which is cool. It makes it look much more realistic because there's a lot of sand in Alabasta. I'm very excited to see how they incorporate those new wrinkles that they add in every season. Let me know what you like the most from One Piece, especially this live action adaptation. It's a very good adaptation, which is very rare for anime nowadays. I want to hear what you like the most, what you didn't like. Sound off down below. Leave a like, subscribe, helps the channel greatly. Until the next video, next series, have a good rest of the day. Be blessed.